Prevention of corrosion. Uh, as we have seen in the last lecture, that corrosion is of many types, many different types. Therefore, prevention of corrosion will need different types of treatments to suppress corrosion or to retard corrosion. There are a number of methods which are followed for prevention of corrosion, and these methods, they are change or modification of material can lead to lessen the corrosion. Then change of corrosive environment can also be used as a method for prevention of corrosion. Electrochemical techniques, barrier films, and design. All these methods, they can be used to prevent corrosion depending upon the kind of application which we are doing for the prevention of corrosion. Then, for example, in case of change or modification of material, the process can be complete or partial change or modification of the material used can lead to prevention of corrosion. Then change of corrosive environment means either a complete change in environment or partial alteration by modification of pH and other conditions of the environment. Then the third one, electrochemical techniques, they are very important, and they have found many applications in industry. Sacrificial coatings, they are very important method for prevention of corrosion. Then cathodic or anodic protection is also very important. Then these days, the most common is use of barrier films, uh, uh, which can lead to either prevention of corrosion or even removal of corrosion in some cases. So these barrier films, they may be in the form of organic coatings or inorganic coatings like electroplating, electroless plating. So all these types of methodologies, they come under barrier films. Then by changing the design of the various types of factors, they can the prevention of corrosion can be done. First is the methodology where we change or modify the material. So the corrosion may be controlled by partial or complete change in the material used, but changing the material is a difficult thing sometimes. So therefore, usually modification of the material is preferred for prevention of corrosion. So this can be done, modification of the material can be done in two ways, either coating the metal or alloying the metal to produce a more corrosion resistant alloy. So in the first case, what is done is that we introduce a corrosion resistant coating between the metal and the environment. So which will lead to the formation of a protective coating, and the corrosion will become less. And this coating may consist of another metal like zinc or tin coating on steel, or it may be a protective coating derived from metal itself. So aluminum oxide on anodized aluminum is an example of protective coating. Then organic coatings can also be used, such as resins, plastics, paints, enamels, oils, and greases. They can be coated on the metal to prevent corrosion. Then second category, that is allowing the metal to produce a more corrosion resistant alloy. So example, stainless steel, in which ordinary steel is alloyed with chromium and nickel, and stainless steel is protected by an invisible thin naturally formed film of chromium sesquioxide. So this will also lead to less corrosion in the metal. Then we can use corrosion inhibitors also for prevention of corrosion. And a corrosion inhibitor is a chemical additive which, when added to a corrosive aqueous environment, reduces the rate of corrosion. So this inhibitor will prevent the corrosion to take place, and corrosion rate of corrosion will be reduced. And basically inhibitors, they can be of these four types: anodic inhibitors, cathodic inhibitors, adsorption inhibitors, or mixed inhibitors. These three categories, they are inorganic inhibitors, whereas adsorption inhibitors, they are organic in nature. The first is anodic inhibitors. An anodic inhibitor interferes with the anodic process. So what happens is, we know that when corrosion is taking place, then metal changes into Fe2 plus ions, and two electrons, they are formed. The anodic inhibitors, they will react with the metal ions formed. These metal ion forms, this anodic inhibitor will react with them during the anode reaction to produce sparingly soluble inorganic salts. So this inhibitor will form salts of these ions, and these salts, they are absorbed on the surface of the metal, and this will form a protective coating, and because of the formation of this protective coating, corrosion will be reduced. And most commonly used anodic inhibitors, they are orthophosphate, nitrite, ferricyanide, molybdates, tungstates, chromates, and silicates. So this is one reaction where we are using this silicate as the corrosion inhibitor. So what it has done, this uh, iron metal has changed into Fe2 plus ions, and this silicate has reacted with the Fe2 plus ions to give us this sparingly soluble salt, which will form a coating on the place where the corrosion is taking place, and this coating will act as a protective coating, and no further corrosion will take place. So such type of process is called as anodic inhibition, and the silicates here, they will be known as anodic inhibitors. Then is cathodic inhibitors. Uh, a major reaction in case of cathodic reaction, we know when corrosion takes place, that atmospheric oxygen reacts with moisture, and hydroxide ions, they are produced on reaction with the electrons formed through the anodic reaction. Now, the cathodic inhibitor which we add additives which suppress the above reaction, they are called as, so any additive when added which suppresses the formation of this, that will be known as cathodic inhibitor. And most commonly used cathodic inhibitors, they are salts of magnesium, zinc, or nickel. So what happens is that these salts, they react with the hydroxide ion formed in the cathodic reaction, and the corresponding insoluble hydroxides, they are formed, and these hydroxides, they will get deposited on the cathode, forming barriers resulting in prevention of corrosion, so that they will form a layer of insoluble hydroxide, and this layer will prevent further corrosion in this case. So for example, in this case, zinc ions, they are used as cathodic inhibitor. So we will add zinc ions, and at cathode we are having zinc 2 plus ions, and hydroxide ions formed in the cathodic reaction, they will react with the zinc 2 plus ions and zinc hydroxide, that will be formed at the cathodic side, and as a consequence of localized high pH, and this will form a layer of zinc hydroxide, and further corrosion will be suppressed. So That is how the cathodic inhibition takes place. Then we can use adsorption inhibitors also, and as I have told you that adsorption inhibitors, they are organic in nature, and they work by adsorption mechanism. Here what happens is the resultant film of chemi-absorbed inhibitor is responsible for protection either by physically blocking the surface from the corrosion environment or by retarding the electrochemical process. And the main organic compounds which are used, they have function groups like amino, carboxyl and phosphonate function groups. They are present in the organic molecules which are used as adsorption inhibitors. So here what happens is, suppose we are having a mild steel, and if it is not inhibited, we know because of the acid attack the metal surface is mild steel surface is corroded. Now what we do is that we add some organic compound like this, and this organic compound will form a protective layer on the surface of the mild steel, and the attack of the acid will be inhibited, and because of this surface will become protective and no corrosion will take place. Then is mixed inhibitors. Mixed inhibitors are compounds that form a film or precipitate to reduce both the cathodic and anodic reaction. And common example of mixed inhibitors are sodium silicate and phosphates. They are used in domestic water softening salt to prevent rust water. Because of the danger of pitting, when using anodic inhibitors alone, it becomes common practice to incorporate a cathodic inhibitor into the formulated performance. So only difference is here we are using cathodic as well as anodic inhibitors together, and this will retard the corrosion because of the combination of the inhibitors that will be some of the individual performance. Then is another way of prevention of corrosion is cathodic protection. Cathodic protection is that if electrons they are passed into the metal and reach the metal or electrolyte surface, then the anodic reaction becomes subdued, and the cathodic reaction rate increases, and because of that the corrosion will become less, and this process is called as cathodic protection. And this can only be applied if there is a suitable conducting medium such as earth or water through which a current can flow to a metal to be protected. So mostly the application of cathodic protection can only be done in those cases where there is a possibility of a conducting medium present in the application part. So in most of the soil or natural water, corrosion of steel is prevented if potential of metal surface is lowered by 300 to 400 microvolt. And this cathodic protection is of two types. One is sacrificial anodic protection, and other is impressed current cathodic protection. Now sacrificial anodic protection, this is achieved by obtaining electrons from the anodic dissolution of a metal flow, which is the metal which is low in the galvanic series, and the metals which are commonly used for sacrificial anodic protection, they are aluminium, zinc or magnesium, and most commonly used is magnesium. So here what happens is the standard potential of magnesium is 2.38 volts in comparison to iron, which is lower, is 0.41. So because of that, it can act as an anode of a voltaic cell with steel pipe acting as a cathode. For example, we can see over here, this is the pipe, steel pipe, for which we are to prevent the corrosion in this case. And this steel pipe is present in the soil. What we will do is we will dig a pipe of rod of magnesium, and we will connect this to the steel pipe. And this connecting a magnesium rod to a steel pipe makes magnesium iron voltaic cell, which oxidizes manganese in preference to iron. So here the oxidation of iron will not take place, but oxidation of magnesium will take place in a first place, and because of that we will get magnesium ions and electrons they will be produced, and these electrons they will be taken up by the oxygen and water to produce sodium hydroxide, hydroxide ions, and because of that the corrosion will take place in magnesium rather than steel pipe. So this type of protection is called as sacrificial anodic protection. Then is impressed current cathodic protection. Here what happens is that in this case we provide with cathodic current from an external power source. A direct current DC power source forces the current to discharge from expandable anodes through the electrolyte and on the structure to be protected. So this is an external source, and we will form a cathode protection unit at some place near the pipe which is to be protected from corrosion, and we will put up an anode bed, and then the corrosion will be reduced because of the formation of an electrochemical cell between this anode and the pipe. So what will happen is that connecting the structure to be protected to the negative terminal of the power source and ground bed to the positive of the positive terminal of the power source, this will create an electrochemical cell whereby the corrosion will not take place in this pipe. Instead it will take place at this place. Then the most commonly used these days, they are protective coatings. So these are most widely used products in industry these days, and they provide long-term protection, and they are useful under a broad range of corrosive conditions, extending from atmospheric exposure to chemical processing conditions also. And they themselves, the protective coatings themselves provide little or no structure strength, but because they form a film on the surface of the material which is to be protected from corrosion, so their protection is very strengthful. The main function of a protective coating is to isolate structural reactive elements from environmental corrosion. And this coating must provide to a substrate a continuous barrier, and any imperfection can become the focal point for degradation and corrosion of the substrate. So these protective coatings, they are of two types: metallic coatings or inorganic coatings. The metallic coatings, they have been further categorized, and most commonly used metallic coatings, they are electroplating, electroless plating, zinc coatings, and metal cladding. Whereas inorganic coatings, many types of coatings they have been used, and most commonly used they are zinc coatings. The metallic coatings they provide a layer that changes the surface properties of the corroding metal to those of the metal being applied. So when the surface property of the corroding metal changes, then the rate of corrosion also decreases. So the deposition of metal coatings such as chromium, nickel, copper, and cadmium. So this is generally achieved by wet chemical processes. And as I have told you that metallic coatings they are deposited by electroplating, electroless plating, spraying, hot dipping, chemical vapor deposition and ion vapor deposition depending upon what type of application we are having. So depending on that whichever of these is suitable for that application, that kind of coating is done on that product. Now first is electroplating. Electroplating is the deposition of a metallic coating onto an object by putting a negative charge onto the object and immersing it into a solution which contains a salt of the metal to be deposited. So we can see from here that this is the object to be electroplated, and this will act as a cathode, and the metal which is to be deposited that will be acting as anode. So here what we do is we add electrolyte in the form of nickel chloride, right? Because we are doing nickel plating. So when nickel chloride is added, it will exist in the electrolyte as nickel 2 plus ions and chloride ions. Then oxidation of the metal will take place at this place, and that metal will produce metal ions and electrons, and from here those electrons they will interact with the nickel 2 plus ions, and nickel will be deposited on the object to be uh, electroplated. So this is how electroplating is achieved through an electrochemical cell. And ferrous and non-ferrous metal objects, they are plated with a variety of metals including aluminium, tin, bronze, cadmium, copper, chromium, iron, lead, nickel, zinc, as well as precious metals like gold, platinum and silver. So only thing is whichever metal we want to electroplate, we have to take the aqueous solution of that metal in the electrolyte, and then the object is taken as anode, cathode, and other anode is present as the other metal, and the metal to be deposited will be present as aqueous solution in the electrolyte, and that will get deposited on the object which is to be electroplated. Then is electroless plating. Electroless nickel plating is the most common one, and this is a chemical reduction process which depends on the catalytic reduction process of nickel ions in an aqueous solution, and the subsequent deposition of nickel metal without the use of electrical energy. So this is the difference between electroplating and electroless plating. Electroplating is through the use of electrical energy, whereas electroless plating is without the use of electrical energy. So here because of electroless plating, excellent corrosion resistance, high hardness, and this process finds extensive applications in the items such as walls, pumps and other parts, etc. And here what happens is, say we are having this phosphate salt. This will produce H hydrogen atoms, and these hydrogen atoms they will react with the nickel salt which we have added on the surface of the surface of the metal to be coated. And these nickel 2 plus ions, they will interact and they will undergo reduction, and nickel metal will be formed, and this reductive process will form a coating on the surface of the matter, and this process is called as electrolysis plating. And these H ions produced, they will interact with the electrons which are produced during the other oxidation reaction, and hydrogen gas will go to the atmosphere. Then advantages of electrolysis plating. The deposits of this type of plating, they are uniform even on the complex shapes. So you are having any shape, the electrolysis plating will be uniform in nature, and these deposits are less porous, and because they are less porous, that means they are better barriers against corrosion. So corrosion protection will be better in such cases, and this is applicable to steel substrate, and this is much superior to the electroplating in case of nickel and hard chrome because of the less porosity of the film which is formed in comparison to electroplated nickel or chrome. Then these deposits, they cause 1/5 as much hydrogen absorption as the electrolytic nickel, and about 1/10 as much as hard chrome. So that means they are better than electroplated nickel or electroplated chrome. Then these deposits, they maintain the natural lubricity of the material on which the deposits they are done. Uh, this again is better than the electrolytic nickel, that is the nickel plating. Then they have good wettability for oils also. Then because of these excellent corrosion resistance, high wear resistance, and uniformity of coating, they find a number of applications in different type of industries. And the important industry where they find applications, they are oil and gas industry, where valve components, pumps, pipe fittings, packers, barrels, etc., they are deposited with electrolysis. Then in chemical processing industry, heat exchangers, filter units, pump housings, impellers, mixing blades, they are deposited with electrolysis plating. Then in plastics, molds and dies for injecting and low and below molding of plastic components, extruders, machine parts, rollers, all these they find application in electrolysis plating. In textile industry, printing cylinders, machine parts, then threaded guides, all these they find application in textile industry. Automotives also they find applications in different types of parts for electrolysis plating. Then aviation and aerospace, they also use electrolysis plating in satellite and rocket components, then wall components, etc. Then electrolysis plating also find application in food and pharmaceutical industry. Then capsule machinery dies, chocolate molds, food processing machinery components, they also deposited with electrolysis plating. The next is inorganic coatings. Inorganic coatings, they can be formed by chemical action with or without electrical resistance. So both these methodologies, they can be used for forming a inorganic coating on any material. Either this can be used with electrical assistance or it can be used without electrical assistance. The treatment changed the immediate surface layer of the metal into a film of metallic oxide or compound. Then that metallic oxide that will be a better corrosion resistance than the natural oxide film, and this provides an effective base for supplementary protection such as paints. So paints, they can be used as inorganic coating. Then the process of inorganic coating, that is anodizing, is an electrochemical process in which aluminium is the anode, and anodizing involves the electrolytic oxidation of the surface to produce a tightly adherent oxide scale, then which is thicker than the naturally occurring film. Then the difference between plating and anodizing is that oxide coating is integral part of the metal substrate, whereas in case of coating, this is a metallic coating deposition only, whereas this is part of the system on which this has been coated. And oxidized surface is hard and abrasion resistance, and it provides some degree of corrosion resistance also. Then anodizing processes, they may be of different types. This may be hard coat anodizing, bulk anodizing, or sulfuric acid anodizing. Hard coat anodizing is a sulfuric acid anodizing process with the electrolyte concentration, temperature, and electric current parameters changed to produce the hardened surface. The hard coat finish is tough and durable, and it is used where abrasion, corrosion resistance, and surface hardness, they are critical factors. So, for example, in this one, this is an example of hard coat anodizing, and this second one is also an example of hard coat anodizing. Then second category is bulk anodizing. Bulk anodizing is an electrochemical process for anodizing small, irregularly shaped parts which are processed in perforated aluminium, plastic, or titanium baskets. And this is an example of bulk anodizing. And the large quantity of parts, they can be anodized collectively, and they will be uniformly anodized. So because they can be done in large quantities, though because of that, this technique is highly economical also. Another advantage of bulk anodizing is that there is a consistency in color and quality. You can see over here that all the parts, they have been consistently anodized, and color and quality of all the parts is same. So this is another advantage of bulk anodizing. Then is sulfuric acid anodizing. This is the most common method of anodizing, and the part to be anodized is subjected to a specified electric current through a sulfuric acid electrolyte, converting the surface to an aluminum oxide coating capable of absorbing dyes in a wide range of colors. So we can see from here, this is the object which is to be anodized, right? And this is the cathode. This may be of lead, or this may be of aluminium. So what will happen is that metal ions, they will be formed from here, anodized surface, and they will go to the cathode, and the object will be anodized. The abrasion and or corrosion resistance is enhanced because of sulfuric acid anodizing. And this surface after anodization may also be used as a base for applying coatings such as paint, Teflon, and adhesives. So these are pictures of two automatic plants where sulfuric acid anodizing can be done. Then next is factors affecting corrosion. The corrosion is factored based on nature of the metal and nature of the environment. First is factors affecting corrosion based on nature of the metal. So first is what is the position of the metal which is undergoing corrosion in the galvanic series. If the metal is higher up in the galvanic series, the oxidation potential is higher, which makes the metal to have higher tendency to become anodic, and hence the rate of corrosion will be higher. So that means depending upon the position of the metal, the rate of corrosion will be determined. Then purity of the metal. The rate of corrosion is higher in case of impure metals in comparison to pure metals. So that means purity of the metal matters in case of corrosion. Then physical state of the metal also is a factor which affects the corrosion. So here, smaller the grain size of the metal or alloy, higher will be its rate of corrosion. So the grain size will determine that whether the corrosion rate will be high or it will be low. Then nature of the oxide film. The ratio of volume of the metal oxide to metal is called as specific volume ratio, and greater this ratio, lesser is the corrosion rate. So they are inversely proportional to each other. Specific volume ratio and corrosion rate, they are inversely proportional to each other. Then relative areas of anode and cathode. So when two different metals or alloys are in contact, the corrosion of the anodic part is directly proportional to the ratio of the cathodic part and the anodic part. So that means what is the area of the anode or cathode, the ratio of those areas, they will also determine whether the corrosion will take place in a lower manner or in a high manner. Then solubility of corrosion products. That is in electrochemical corrosion, the corrosion proceeds at faster rate if the corrosion product is soluble in corroding medium. So that means solubility of the products which have been formed from corrosion also determines whether the rate of corrosion will be faster or it will be slower. Then is volatility of the corrosion products. As we have seen that rapid and uninterrupted corrosion of metal take place if corrosion product is volatile. So what it will do when corrosion product is volatile, it will go into the atmosphere and the further surface of the metal will be ready for further corrosion, and ultimately whole of the metal will be used up. So volatility of corrosion product will also lead to faster corrosion. Then nature of the corroding environment also determines the rate of corrosion. First is effect of pH. The corrosion can be reduced by increasing the pH of the attacking environment. So we can control corrosion by changing the pH of the environment. Then humidity of air. We know that rate and extent of corrosion is directly proportional to humidity, because the electrons which are formed by oxidation of metal, they will interact with the moisture present in the air and to form hydroxide ions. So that is why the rate and extent of corrosion is directly proportional to humidity. Higher the humidity, higher will be the rate of corrosion. Then temperature is directly proportional to corrosion. Corrosion rate. The corrosion rate is generally enhanced with increase of temperature of the environment due to increase in diffusion rate. Then presence of suspended particles in atmosphere. This will also affect the corrosion rate. Now, if the suspended particles they are chemically active, then corrosion rate is more. If suspended particles are chemically inactive, then the corrosion rate will increase slowly. So this is the difference between two cases, that depending upon the type of suspended particles, the rate of corrosion will be determined. Then presence of impurities in atmosphere. The rate of corrosion of metals is more in areas near industry and sea. This is because the corrosive gases like H2S, SO2 or carbon dioxide, then vapors of sulfuric acid and HCl, they are present in the industrial areas. Whereas near the sea we have aqueous sodium chloride, and this will lead to the increased conductivity of the liquid layer in contact with the metal surface. So as the conductivity increases, the corrosion rate also increases. So that is why the rate of corrosion is more in areas near industry and sea. So that means presence of impurities in atmosphere will increase the corrosion rate depending upon the nature of impurities present in the atmosphere. So this lecture has been prepared from this book, Chemistry for Engineers, and some additional internet sources they have also been used for preparing this video. Thank you very much.